Hi everybody and welcome back. In the overall topic of NKBA documentation and then a specific focus on mechanical plans, in this video we're going to be talking about how to draw lighting and switches on your plans. Let's start with the switches. When you're designing your switch locations, the first thing you want to do is kind of think about all the tasks that will be completed um, within a space and how that space will function. And then you're going to want to place switches at both or all entrances into a room. Okay, you don't want your clients to have to backtrack or walk across a dark room to go find the switch. Okay. The other rule of thumb is to always place switches on the latch side of the door. Okay, that's where we naturally expect to find them, and we don't expect them on the hinge side of the door. By the way, here's a door. This is the hinge side. This is the latch side. So you can see that the switch for that room is just inside the room on the latch side. Okay. And finally, you want to think about layering your lighting and your lighting controls, using different controls for all the different lighting tasks. We're going to be talking a lot more about the design of lighting for your kitchens and baths in another module. Today we're just talking about how to draw them on the plan. So vertically, switches are placed anywhere from 42 to 48 inches above the finished floor. Typical measurement is about 44. And so here's, we probably recognize this illustration from when you were talking about the outlets, but here is your switch. And you can see it's roughly 2.5 inches away from your trim right here. And that's generally determined by the studs inside the wall that are forming the jamb of your door, and then they attach the junction box to those studs. All right. And then the height, you can specify this, and it's generally 44, maybe 48 inches. Okay. On your mechanical plan, the control symbols or the switches are drawn as an S with a line through it, or some people use a dollar sign. Okay, and those will indicate each separate switch. And then similar to the outlet where there was a little notation for the specialty types, the switches will have a little number or letter, a notation to determine what type it is. Okay. You can have multiple switches in a specific location. You often do. You'll have like 2 in a row or 3. Here is an illustration of 3 switches in one location. Okay. In plans, there's 2 different ways to draw this for a double switch or a triple switch. The first is just to put 2 switch symbols next to each other. That's my favorite way to do it. I think it's more clear, whereas sometimes these multiple lines do get lost in reproduction. Okay, but the other way to do it is just to put 2 lines through it. Okay, triple switch, 3 switches next to each other, or 1, 2, 3 lines. You can end up, especially with modern and complicated lighting designs, you can end up with 6 or 8 switches next to each other. Okay, so this can get really complicated. So let's talk about the circuits next. You're going to connect every switch with the luminaire or the lighting fixture that it controls. And that's going to be a gentle arc or a curved line. Okay. Each switch will only have one line coming off of it. But if two luminaires are if 2 luminaires are controlled by the same switch, so one switch will turn on 2 lights, a line will connect all of them. Okay, and we'll see an example of that coming up. So let's take a look right here. In this plan, we have a switch on this wall, and then here is the circuit arc, and it's connecting to this luminaire. Here's another example, switch, and to this luminaire, and here's one into the closet. Notice that NKBA standard has solid lines. AIA standard specifically has dashed lines. I have seen professionals mix and match these. Most architects I know actually prefer the solid line. And then you'll see later in our NKBA textbook, the example uses a dashed line. Okay, for this class, I would prefer that you use a solid line, please. Let's talk about three-way switches. This is confusing to many people. A three-way switch is a circuit that has two, not three. It's got two different switches connected to your lights, and that could be one light or it could be multiple lights. Okay, so three-way switches is one or multiple lights connected to two switches. All right, and you'll see that fairly often in rooms that have multiple openings. And here's an example for you in this same plan right here. We've got a hallway and it's got one light, two lights. Okay, two lights, but it's got a switch at either end of the hallway. All right, so you never have to walk through a dark hallway and then find the light switch. So here's one switch at one end, and then it's connected to this light fixture, and then connected to this light fixture, and then connected to that switch right there. Okay, so all of those are on the same circuit. And they are three-way switches, you know, because it's got a tiny little letter, number 3 right there. So here's what a three-way switch looks like. Looks like this. By the way, you can have a four-way, and that will have 3 switches. Okay, so a room that has 3 doors maybe. Um, and it will have the number 4 on there. Moving on to light fixtures, or the fancy vocabulary word is luminaires. The different types of light fixtures will have different symbols on your plan. So every type of light fixture that you use will have a different symbol on your plan, and then you will include that in your legend. Okay, and your textbook does a pretty good job of determining a bunch of different symbols, or giving you a bunch of different symbols. So please go ahead and take a look at all of those. There are also some additional mechanical symbols shown in your textbook. One that I really want to call your attention to is the gas supply. If you've got any gas appliances, such as a gas stove, you need to show where the gas line is going to go. Okay, and you'll also need to show any register placement and any vents in your designs. So now that we've walked through all of these different things, let's take a look at these example plans again, specifically looking at the lighting and the switching. So here is a bathroom example, and let's take a look at just this little toilet compartment right here. You can see that it's got 2 switches. They're inside the room on the latch side of the door, okay? And they connect to this light and then this light. And then here, this switch right there connects to this. Oh, what is that? Let's go look at the legend. It's a ventilation fan. So here is another example. This is our kitchen example. And so we've got some switches over here and they connect right there. Okay. And so I'll leave it as a exercise for you to see if you can follow all of these switches and circuit lines. But I mentioned the little hop. Okay, so here we have one circuit line. Here we have this one following this way, and they cross. What they did was break this line right here and here and make a little bloop. So it's as if that line was jumping over that. This is a visual tool, okay, that helps us as humans follow this circuit line. All right, everyone. So as you can tell by this point, the mechanical plan is probably the most complex drawing in your NKBA documentation. So I hope that with this series of lectures and with the practice you're about to get in your project, you will kind of learn the ins and outs of how to draw that mechanical plan. Thanks, everyone.